Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sarah Tarot and I am here to ask Spirit, what are your divine gifts? So this is really fun because I always like complimenting people first of all, and I feel like these kinds of readings are really important just to remind you of all of the things that you were already born with that are at your disposal. So this is great in general. This is also great, especially if you need a little confidence boost or a little bit of encouragement. So go ahead and pick a pile here. We have pile 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll get into your reading. Hi pile 1, welcome to your reading. If you picked the obsidian sphere, then this is going to be your reading on what your divine gifts are today. So what I'm going to do is this first card is to represent like the main heart of what your divine gifts are, or at least the ones we're talking about today. And then we'll draw some more to get some more color around that. We'll ask Spirit how you can be more in sync with your unique gifts or how you can utilize them more in your life. And then we will ask Spirit for some messages. I have a little bag of charms here as well. We're just going to kind of use them as I feel like we should. So let's get started. For this middle one here, we got potion. Remember to practice self-love. So first of all, just going off of this individual card, I definitely feel like you are already into not necessarily the occult, because that has kind of a negative connotation to that sometimes, but you've always been really into spiritual things, mystical things, sometimes occult things, just the right word is more like metaphysical subjects. You've always been very in tune with the idea that everything is not as it seems. This might have been something that you were really into when you were younger and you had a period of dormancy, and maybe recently you're reconnecting with that part of yourself. And especially with this line here, remember to practice self-love, I also feel like it is something that you are recently learning to appreciate about yourself. So even if you didn't have that period of dormancy, maybe you didn't really think much of it or didn't think it was very special, but these days, or at least this might be a message to remind you that that is a gift that you can use to your disposal, and that's something you should appreciate about yourself. Not to say that people who aren't into the same things should be judged, or that people who are into spiritual things are better or anything. I'm not suggesting that at all, but just being more in touch with the truth that everything isn't always as it seems, and especially to be in touch with spirit, that is an advantage that can help you, especially with just cutting out any unnecessary suffering. Sometimes it can also help you tap into your own emotions. It can help you just go through life, which we are all doing regardless of what you believe in. We're all going through life, and life can be hard, but having this extra piece at your disposal can definitely make things a little easier for you. I also feel like this is a part of you that brings you a lot of joy, or has the potential to bring a lot of joy and a lot of fun and a lot of peace. When I see this witchy character, doing a spell here in this picture, I feel like she's enjoying a sense of peace. She's enjoying a sense of healthy introversion with herself, where she might be connecting with maybe her higher self, or getting answers that she's looking for with herself. This is just very in her element, and I feel like that represents this part of you. In that same vein, you might also be a little bit introverted, and if you're not exactly introverted, this might also be a little message that if you're looking for a little bit more peace, or you need to ground yourself in certain times, even if you're extroverted, then pausing, looking within yourself, and maybe finding certain personal rituals that you can do to tune into this more spiritual or this more witchy side of yourself might be something that will bring you not just more peace and more joy, but maybe even more fortune. I definitely feel that way too, because this 24 reduces to a 6, and with 6 is, I think, a lot of like harmony, stability. Things are as they should be, and I feel like this spiritual, this witchy part of you can really help you round yourself in your life and just bring you more abundance, bring you the abundance that you deserve in your life. That's where we're starting with this card, but I also wanted to draw some from this next deck to give us some context around your divine gifts. So we'll add a couple more context around this part of your gift. Ooh, we already got one dropping out. We have chaos and conflict, and which is also, you see here, 33 also reduces to 6, so we already have 2 6s here, which I do want to look up a little note about just to see if there's any more messages there for you. And we'll get one more. Ooh, and we have why. So I'll start with this why card because this is kind of poking out to me. So at least in the imagery that we have here, I definitely feel like these sun rays that are coming down to this fairy figure feels very spiritual, especially with the wings on this book. And this might even represent messages from spirit or messages from a higher force, whatever belief, whatever you personally like to believe in terms of the higher force. Building off of this potion card and what I mentioned about you being very spiritual and at least very in touch with metaphysical subjects, you might have noticed a lot of signs. You might have also felt like you received a lot of messages in different forms. It might have been in book lines. It might have been things that came spur of the moment to your mind at times. It might have been frequent numbers on the clock, like synchronicities, the light appearing on something a certain way. I think that you have noticed many signs throughout your life, and even if some people might notice that and kind of shrug it off, you are very curious and inquisitive, and you might have had the extra sense to ask why. Why am I seeing this? Why do I feel like this is significant? And what does that mean? What does it mean that I'm seeing these things? What do those things mean in particular? And is there a higher purpose to this? That is a gift in itself, just being curious and inquisitive, because that can often lead us to the best places. That also can often lead you to the things you're meant to find in your life, because you are always searching for answers. You're always asking the right and important questions. And you don't settle. That is a particular positive trait as well of people who are curious and inquisitive. You don't settle for what's in front of you. You ask the big questions, and that will often lead you to your ultimate purpose or things that you very much deserve in your life. With this chaos and conflict card, I definitely feel like, as I was mentioning earlier, your connection with the spiritual has definitely helped you, or has the potential to help you manage a lot of chaos and conflict you've experienced in your life. Especially with this card coming up in the first place, I feel like you are no stranger to chaos and conflict. I'm sure you've had your fair share of hardships in your fair share of just particularly crazy situations. I feel like maybe also you in particular have had the unique collection of experiences where you might have had just like really unique situations happen to you, really weird things that don't always happen to the average person, especially with this this horse-like animal that should be a zebra, but it's kind of having like a giraffe kind of thing as well. You've been in unique situations where you might have had to find your own answers because nobody else has been like in that same situation as you have. It's just so unique. Obviously, I don't think you're like the only person in the entire world who probably has been in that kind of situation, but at least in your immediate circle, maybe you couldn't turn to regular or like the same sources of advice slash comfort slash information that everybody else might, because there are such unique situations. And that might be why looking within yourself for answers is the place that you have been able to deal with these and make sense of them. Yeah, so I just wanted to look something up and confirm when it came to the general meaning that sixes have, so especially with these two sixes here. You're not only someone who has been able to make sense of difficult situations and to bring stability to conflict, I feel like you also have the unique gift of being able to be a really good mediator or a really good peacekeeper, so to speak. Maybe whenever your friends are arguing, you're someone in your family is arguing, or in your circle, you're the one who can kind of ground things and de-escalate situations that are getting too wild. I'm definitely getting a lot of earthy energy for sure. Yeah, you keep everyone locked down when a situation gets really crazy. Awesome. So I'm going to move this off to the side a little bit. And I'm also going to pull a couple cards specifically for what is something exceptional about you, pile one, which may build off of these, may not. I'm going to pull two more for what is exceptional about pile one. I'm going to pull two more cards here. What is exceptional about pile one in addition to these gifts that we have already been looking at? Ooh, we have there and now, and here and now, sorry, here and now, this one wants to come out, and peace. Yes, exactly what I was saying before. And first of all, I do want to point out this double fives here, this 32, which reduces to 5, and this 23, which also reduces to 5. Yes, so let me first dive into kind of that numerology piece. So here we have a 4, 2 6s, and 2 5s. I feel like, first of all, with that progression, that kind of speaks again to how you've been really good at dealing with difficult situations and being in the thick of very chaotic ordeals, especially seeing like, I feel like there's two different messages with the greens from both of these cards. First of all, it reminds me of like the green sky that comes before a tornado. So at least for that first message, I feel like it speaks to that being comfortable with chaos and conflict and crazy situations, really difficult situations that not everyone is equipped to deal with. That's something that's definitely within your realm and within your divine gifts to be able to handle. Even more so with these double fives, which I feel like is kind of emphasizing more chaos, being disorderly. Chaos is like the most key word to describe it. Within these crazy circumstances, even though you might seem fragile on the outside, like especially with these two egg figures. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that we pulled both very similar looking cards, and both of these look like eggs, which seem fragile at first glance. But I think if you heard of the myth that when you try to squeeze or break an egg with your fingers, you can't do it. When you are positioned in just the right way, exactly like your true self really is, you are very resilient to all this crazy noise going on. And especially with the synchronicities and the peaceful feelings from these three cards, the introspective witch in this first one, the loving and happy fairy girl in the second one, and this very quiet scene even in this itself peace card. And in the here and now, you are exceptionally talented at grounding yourself in the moment and anchoring yourself in your own internal peace and knowing who you are. So even if at times you're having a hard time, you still stay grounded, and you're an anchor also to other people when there's storms raging, when there's crazy stuff going on, when you enter these situations that other people don't really know what to do with. You are particularly great at holding everyone down, holding down the fort. A big piece of that power is being able to bring yourself into the moment, because we hear from so many things, especially from media that talks about mindfulness, right? That our real power, the real key, not just to peace, but to unlocking a higher version of ourselves, is truly, truly being able to be present, be in the here and now. There's a saying that goes, your power is in the present, or your power is in the now, and you are able to tap into that. I'm getting another emphasis on what I mentioned earlier on you being a really good peacemaker and a really good mediator between your friends and your loved ones, even more so with this peace card and with the peace that this dove symbolizes as well. Part of that might be from, on an energetic level, you might also be very in tune with your spirit guides or your angels, so to speak. With the synchronicities of the wings here, I feel like that at least speaks a little bit to that. Also with the synchronicities with the fairy wings, I feel like you get a lot of that power and a lot of that peacemaking capability partially through your ability to communicate with your guides. Maybe if you don't do it directly, or you don't do it in a way that you believe that right now, either your higher self is always really good at communicating with your guides, or you yourself, in ways that you may not realize, are communicating really well with your guides. And so even if you aren't directly having a dialogue with them yet, you guys still work together really well to bring you what you deserve, and also to bring the right peace to your own life into difficult situations. For the main part of your divine gifts, I do want to pull one more card, for a card to represent your potential in fully realizing these divine gifts. So we're going to pull something for your potential, because we are always growing and we are always expanding as people and as souls. So even though you are already freaking awesome and super cool, I'm getting like You have very effortlessly cool vibes, on top of being very calm. Your potential in terms of even the next level of being even more awesome. These are circular cards. Oop. I feel like something was trying to jump out at me here. We have the womb in terms of your potential. I feel like right off the bat, this is really speaking on your ability to create. It may not be literal fertility, although it could be pointing to that, especially with how this appeared right under this witch, like kind of right part of that. I do feel like this is speaking to your potential to really create beautiful things. Really bring beautiful things and situations out of these crazy situations. Maybe you have the potential to create really unique spells or really unique pieces of media. I'm feeling maybe poetry, art, something in writing. If you haven't already explored that, maybe that's something that you want to look into. I feel like this is also pointing to a potential to be extremely nurturing. You might already be nurturing by nature, and I kind of get the idea, especially with some of these peacekeeper vibes I've been getting from your reading. But this might be pointing to like even the next step. Maybe if you're currently a mother or you're eventually going to be a mother, and even if you're not a mother of children, you might be a very motherly figure to someone else or within your group. I think this is pointing to all of these gifts are honestly very useful traits, particularly being in a nurturing role. You could even consider like a nurturing role in terms of careers. But when we make that connection, that is true, right? Being able to be very grounded, being able to make sense of really crazy situations, that is all like within the realms of being a nurturer, being someone who holds down the fort, much like a mother would, and being able to energetically like carry and take care of the people around you, including yourself, kind of in your circle. Not like quite literally in your womb or anything, but in a metaphorical way, like within the people who you consider are like within my charge or within my care. You have the potential to really make a huge difference in those people's lives with these gifts that you have. I'm going to check the guidebook as well to see if there's any messages there for you. Yeah, so looking at the description in there, I think the only thing that I would add is particularly in that vein about you having the potential to be very significantly nurturing to the people around you. I think part of that is because you are so in tune with the vibration of love, because at the very core of things, we are all love, and that is like the source of everything really, and you are really in tune with that vibration, and that's why you have the potential not just to nurture and to help the people around you so much and yourself, and to receive love yourself, but also to create so many things that come from that vibration of love that you're so in tune with, especially being able to communicate with your spirit guides so well, who also are on the vibration of love and love you so much, which is giving me lots of warm fuzzies. So I'm hoping that's giving you warm fuzzies as well. I feel like your guides want to pass that along to you, just as if you didn't already know, but just another little message of they love you very much. I do feel like I want to throw a few charms just to cap off this first part of what are your divine gifts before we move on. I feel like we've got these. Yeah, so first of all, with this tree of life, especially being right off from the womb, and the womb, and it showed up to me really quickly. kind of emphasizing that ability to create things that are very meaningful, and that might be a double confirmation for maybe high fertility. But you have a very big potential to create things for sure, whether that's life, whether that is bringing life to your artistic creations. With this moon, I feel like this is, I'm trying to pick this up, definitely emphasizing again some of those witchy vibes that we've already mentioned that you have and is an inherent part of you. Maybe coming up with some rituals or spending some time doing some rituals in tandem with the moon phases might be something that connects you to another power or connects you deeper within your gifts. I feel like this also points again to your deep intuition, your connection with the spiritual. And finally, with this puzzle piece, I feel like this is speaking again to your role within your friend groups or your family or the people that you love, where you are the piece that holds everyone together. You are the glue for everyone, and you fit so snugly in there, whether you're aware of it or not, that the puzzle would not be complete without you, so to speak. So you hold a lot of presence within the circles that you're in, pile one. Okay, so we're going to move these aside and we're going to figure out how you can be more in sync with your unique gifts, pile one. Spirit, how can pile one be more in sync with their unique gifts? Ugh, I just put these nails on today, and between you and me, I am not particularly used to having long nails, so I'm kind of just fumbling, and I'm trying to get used to it. It is fun though. I feel like my hand motions have been very flourishy and a little dramatic now that I have these claws on, so it's definitely fun. I'm very excited to use this new deck, which is called the Heavenly Bloom deck, and I actually didn't expect it to be gilded on the sides, especially in pink, so I'm very excited to use this. Thank you for the opportunity to let me read for you. How can pile one be more in sync with their divine gifts? We have got your cards. So, how can you be more in sync with your divine gifts? We have the Page of Swords. We have the 10 of Laurels, which I do have to confirm which suit that is. We have Temperance, and we have Death in reverse. Let me double check what laurels are real quick. So I am getting a few mixed messages here, and that might be because this is a general reading. So I'm just going to kind of work through everything that's coming out piece by piece. So the story that I'm kind of getting here is it might be very much part of your personality already to kind of be a hero for people, maybe not in a very dramatic way, but it feels like you're always there to either deliver advice or to stand up for someone, to maybe protect someone. I'm definitely getting that vibe with the imagery of the Page of Swords here. And the Page of Swords, the vibe of it itself. Especially in that realm of providing advice, I feel like you have stepped into that role quite often. Moving into the Ten of Laurels or the Ten of Pentacles, for that same reason, I definitely feel like you are very comfortable offering a hand in need, especially to those that you care about. You want to help people live the best lives that they can and experience everything that life has to offer them. And maybe you've used a lot of that intuition and a lot of that internal knowledge that you had, that you have, to uplift others and to help people in difficult situations. I do think that with this Temperance card, it might be calling to or ask the question, are you doing a little too much of that? Are you giving a lot of your energy to other situations that may not have a lot to do with you? Are you involving yourself really deeply in situations that, although you are a help, it might be taking away some of your energy from giving to yourself instead? I think especially with this Temperance card and this Death in reverse, it might be pointing to asking some of you to practice some moderation in how much you use these gifts to help others, just to make sure that you have enough for your own cup, so that especially with how well that you create and all the gifts that you have that can be in service to others, I do think that this Temperance card is calling you to make sure there's enough in your cup before you go and give out to everyone else's cups. And it may not even be a lot of people. It might be that you're giving a lot of energy to your ride or dies or your ride or die singular. But that might be taking energy, some of it might be taking energy that might be best served to making sure that you're taken care of and that your growth is being addressed and your happiness is being addressed. In that same vein, if it feels like you're taking a lot on your own plate, I think you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. You have lots of gifts at your disposal, but even then, I don't think that it makes you weaker, or that it I don't think that it would be a detriment to those gifts to make sure that you are also comfortable asking for help, or to set certain boundaries when you're giving a lot to other people. I feel like in terms of the boundaries for you to set, it might help you be more in sync with your gifts if you kind of draw a line, if you draw a boundary, a healthy boundary, at maybe just providing advice or letting people know what's best to do without getting too involved. Or, for example, maybe you offer advice, but then you're also like, and I will go talk to that person for you, or I will go and do this thing for you as well. But that might be going a little too far. You are already providing plenty of help and lots of value by giving the great advice that you have and being a peacekeeper and helping ground people, and even just being your presence provides some grounding energy to a situation that you are trying to help. But that might be where it might be good to draw a healthy boundary. instead of trying to go in full hero mode, so to speak. I think moderation in that piece would really help you be more in sync with your unique gifts. And that would also free up some more time for you to explore that part of yourself more. For some of you, I'm also getting a message that in that same vein, maybe you are distracting yourself from certain deeper issues that you do need to address by helping other people. But your divine gifts are meant to help you as much as they are meant to help others around you. So I feel like for some of you, there's also a message to specifically intend to point some of that goodness back at yourself, to heal maybe some trauma or maybe some issues that have been bothering you, but you haven't felt comfortable asking for help in, or haven't been able to find resources to heal for yourself. For some of you, some of that help you might want to ask from could be from your family. I do want to pull a clarifier card for this 10 of Laurels here. Spirit, may I have a clarifier for this 10 of Laurels on how pile 1 can be more in sync with their unique gifts. Okay, so the Fool came out as a clarifier. I feel like with this clarifier, the Fool on the 10 of Laurels, it might be pointing to a message that, in the same vein of practicing moderation and making sure you draw a healthy boundary with how much you help others in proportion to yourself, it wouldn't even be a bad idea to kind of play the Fool in some situations where maybe you are trying to draw a healthy boundary, but someone is like really intending that, you know, you get involved, or maybe they're saying like, oh, you know, you're so good at this pile 1, or you're so good at being assertive, or you're so good at dealing with situations like this, can you do this for me instead? I feel like it would benefit you better to be comfortable playing the Fool in some of these situations, continuing to enforce that boundary, and maybe instead of playing that heroic figure all the time, just letting go of some of these burdens and responsibilities, and just being more free, just allowing yourself to be more free and just enjoy the things that you like to enjoy instead of dealing with other people's problems. I feel like it's really speaking to a bit of a reset in the way that you have been handling some of these situations with others. And finally, I think that by enforcing some of these healthy boundaries and practicing moderation, making sure that you have enough of your cup to help yourself before you help others, I feel like that is going to really pave the path for you to enjoy more abundance. Maybe there's a message for some of you guys to specifically work on your ability to receive, and your how you feel about how deserving you are of gifts, and how deserving you are of your own attention, your own nurturing towards yourself. Now that I'm in that vein, our first potion card talked about self-love, and that might be a message for some of you that by pointing some of these nurturing gifts back at yourself and really nurturing yourself before others, I think that will open the way to kind of lasting happiness, lasting abundance, not just for others, but also for yourself. A lot of our ability to attract abundance into our life also has to do with our own inherent feelings of how we really do feel deserving? Do you feel deserving? Do you feel like you have to do something in order to feel deserving? And why? When the reality is that you are deserving of all the gifts and all the happiness and all the joy without having to do things. Although it brings you additional blessings for being so serving of others and being so kind, and people definitely love you for these things. Really letting go of all of that and letting go of some of these limiting beliefs some of you might have around abundance and how deserving you are is the way for you to not just be more in sync with your divine gifts, but as a result also receive a lot more from the universe and the gifts that the universe deeply wants to give you, but they want you to feel deserving of it first so that you're able to receive these gifts properly and really feel gratitude for them and kind of receive the full benefit that these gifts can give you. So finally, we are going to clear these out and just open the space for messages from Spirit about your gifts. I think we are going to pull 2 cards here and 2 cards from one other deck over here. Spirit, what messages do you have for pile 1 about their gifts? Finally, supporting with our Seed and Sickle Oracle deck, perhaps on advice and or additional context to these messages. I think we'll start with mushroom. And we'll pull one more here. And in hops. Okay. So we got mushroom, hops on the side, TikTok, yin, the fates. Okay. It took me a little longer to kind of get the full picture here for you, pile 1, and I feel like that in itself might be part of the message. I feel kind of like, at least for some of you, you might have grown the habit of very much being a doer. Maybe not trying to control situations so much, but you have always tried to take initiative in things that you want, the goals that you're going for, and the things that you're trying to make happen. And while it has definitely worked in some things with your favor, I feel like Spirit is calling you to, at least in this next part of your life, or this might be a message you might want to hear specifically right now, they're asking you to take a bit of a step back, make some room for Spirit to step in and do some things for you. There's a few connections that kind of came to my mind as well when I was thinking about the rest of your reading. And there's a point where I did feel a little bit frustrated, waiting for the right answers to what I saw in front of me. But I realized that that was part of the reading in itself. Maybe you have gotten impatient in trying to figure out the best way to deal with a situation for yourself. And maybe some of you are feeling a little frustrated in a situation you're in right now where you feel like you wish you had the answers, you're having a hard time with it, and you're asking for answers, but you're feeling impatient because they haven't come yet, or you're feeling some frustration. I feel like this is Spirit calling to you that one thing that you can do for yourself is to bring a little bit more divine feminine energy back into your life. First of all, with this yin card, which feels very feminine, feels very loving, very soft, and also for me synchronizes with this imagery of this girl holding herself and just feeling the magic, so to speak. Not just in being patient, bringing more of this yin energy into your life and allowing things that we don't understand to conspire for us or to happen for us, so to speak, within divine timing. But to remember also that, as I mentioned at the beginning, you have a lot of curiosity and inquisitiveness, and you are very connected with the divine yourself, but a lot of the answers to the questions you might have are within yourself because of those gifts that you have. I feel like both with this girl who's having her eyes closed and hugging herself and kind of feeling the magic within herself, but also this basin with some water in it actually really feels like an oracle to me. For example, looking within this basin and looking at the water for fortune, but also realizing that you're looking at a reflection of yourself, that this water is just a tool for you to look within answers for yourself. I feel like one message is to bring some of this divine feminine energy back into your life, allowing things to happen for you and not putting so much energy into making things happen the way that you want them to or exactly when you want them to, and trusting not just in yourself, trusting in yourself and with maybe not fate, with the divine timing the universe has for you, with the divine plan, and with what Spirit has in store for you. A couple descriptions I wanted to bring up for you too with this mushroom and these hops cards. First of all, with the hops, I'll kind of read it out to you. The hop vine speeds ahead through life, voraciously grabbing at each new hurdle it must conquer. But as it grows, it leaves behind clusters of flowers, and these take life much more casually. With the vine having already done the hard work, they can now reap the benefits. Hop flowers are great for treatment for anxiety and insomnia. Step back, find a spot in the sun, and soak up that restful energy. I feel like this is a message also for Spirit telling you that you've already done a lot of the hard work that is required of you with setting these vines, for example. I feel like that represents the foundation that you have been laying and the work that you've already been putting in. But now is a good time. This is a good time for you to step back, kind of embody the flowers of the hops, and relax a little. Let Spirit handle some of the work for you, and trust that they have your best interests at heart. With the mushroom card here, most funguses grow underground and emerge on the surface to form bands of mushrooms commonly known as fairy rings. Common lore suggests that stepping into these rings will put you in danger of being ensnared by fairies, so watch your step. Drawing this card suggests that decisions you have made in the past are already starting to take effect, for better or for worse. You can't change them now. If it transpires that you've made the wrong choice, now is the time to learn from it and make a better decision next time, or you'll be stuck in a never-ending circle of repeating your errors. Kind of playing off of what I was saying with the hops card, you've already laid the foundation for things that you're trying to make happen. And you should take a step back and let the things that you've done kind of play out first before you figure out your next move. And it's not done yet either. You've already done your part, but there's still going to be more for you to observe when Spirit steps in and does their part as well. I also feel like with this TikTok card, not only has it been alluding to the divine timing I've been talking about with messages from Spirit, I feel like Spirit's also saying it's a matter of time. So you might have been feeling impatient or frustrated, but it's actually going to happen very soon. Spirit stepping in and helping you with a situation that is on your mind. So yeah, I think I will leave you with, take a step back. I'm also even remembering the Fool card that we pulled as well. Free yourself from some of these burdens and allow Spirit to step in and do some of the work for you. You can spend this extra time loving yourself more deeply and doing some work for yourself instead of distracting yourself by helping other people with their stuff. But I think I'm going to leave this reading here. Thank you so much, Pile 1, for spending your time with me today. Please let me know if this resonated with you. And if you feel called to, I would really appreciate any likes or subscribes. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hi, Pile 2. If you picked this pile and the citrine stone, this is going to be your reading on... Whoop, I just flung that stone. This is going to be your reading on what are your divine gifts. So, this first card here is going to be kind of the heart of what we're going to be talking about for the divine gifts we're discussing today. Obviously, you have so many, but we are going to be looking at a few of them. And then I'll draw some additional cards for context. We'll move into how you can be more in sync with your unique gifts. And then finally, we'll open the table for messages from Spirit about your gifts or in general, kind of leaving that space for them to figure out. So they might have anything to tell you. So we're starting here with 26 Feather. Think before you judge. I feel like the vibe that I'm starting to get first from this first card is you are someone who is not exactly what it seems on the surface. You definitely are quite mysterious to people at first, and maybe some people might get the wrong idea about you at first. This is just an example. This may not exactly be true about you, but for example, you might seem unapproachable on the surface to some people. Not necessarily that you have resting bitch face, but you just might be intimidating. You seem very mysterious. Maybe you have a bit of a mystical vibe around you. And people don't judge you for that, but they're a little bit more cautious before they want to approach you. But when people do get to know you, there's a lot more under the surface. Yeah, I'm definitely getting the vibe of not everything is as it seems with you. I think we'll get a little bit more context about this and your divine gifts. May I have some more context around Pile 2's divine gifts? Ooh. We've got peace and we've got exchanging gifts. Yeah, so the first vibe I get under the surface with you, Pile 2, is I mentioned that you're not exactly what it seems. You seem a little mysterious, a little intimidating on the surface, but underneath that, you are actually quite like a soft character. You're quite gentle and you're quite generous. People that know you really appreciate having you in their lives. The circles that you're in really feel like you're an important part of the tribe, so to speak. And I feel like you really hold presence within the communities that you're in. I feel like you bring a sense of serenity to the places that you enter and to the groups that you're a part of. You might seem a little reserved at first. I'm feeling with this egg here that it might be alluding to sometimes you might be in your shell at first, and that's kind of why it's hard to understand it's hard to get a read on you at first glance. It's hard for people to read your mind, but people really appreciate you once you come out of your shell. I feel like when you choose to really reveal parts of yourself to the people that you deem worthy, you are very magnificent to people that get to know you. Yeah, definitely continuing with that egg analogy. When you come out, I'm thinking of this as an egg as well. If you come out of your box, when you come out of your shell, you pretty much sprout wings. You appear like this crazy awesome person, and in many different ways, not just of the ways you might appear attractive to some people, or you might be really impressive, or you might just be really fun around. You tend to leave quite a big impression on the people that you open yourself up to. I feel like within the communities that you're in, there is a lot of give and take. I mentioned that you have a presence within the groups that you're in. I feel like part of that is because you exchange a lot of valuable ideas and other things of value. Maybe you say things that can really comfort people or offer them value in their daily lives, and in that way, that's where some of that give and take comes from within the circles that you're in. Under the surface, I think you also have a lot more of a playful nature than you might seem at first. And lastly, I feel like one of your gifts might be to help other people also come out of their shells. Like, one of your gifts itself is to help other people feel more comfortable coming out of their shells and maybe exploring some of their own gifts. I feel like for many of you, in the words that you say, you're quite good at uplifting others. Once you're more willing to open yourself up to them and they get to see a little bit more under the surface. But I do want to pull a couple more cards for something exceptional about you, pile 2. Spirit, what else is exceptional about pile 2? We have, try to make sure everything's in frame here. Higher Power and Treasure Island. So in terms of what else is exceptional about you, pile 2, I feel like starting with this Treasure Island card, the first impression I get is not only are you very playful, but some of you may be very in touch with your inner child. I get the idea also that you have a very, very active and beautiful imagination. I feel like with these two cards to come in with each other, under the surface, there's just so much magic in you to be discovered. That could be not just in the way you interact with other people and how much they enjoy your company, but especially with this Higher Power card, some of you may not have tapped into this yet, but some of you have. I feel like there's a message here that under the surface, if you dig a little bit deeper, there's quite a lot of spiritual gifts to be discovered. I'm getting the feeling with this larger picture as well of a lot of depth, even more emphasized by having some ocean here, that if you dig deeper, and some of you may have already had the chance to do this, there is a wellspring of spiritual gifts that you have at your disposal. I also get the idea that there is a lot of depth to you as a person. Like, there's lots of layers to go through. On the surface, you might seem one way. Right under the surface, once you open yourself up to people, I've mentioned that you are a lot more playful. You have a big imagination, and you're really in touch with your inner child, and you're really fun. I also get the sense that you're very loving. Like, all the vibes I'm getting from you, pile 2 under the surface, is that you are just such like a joy to be around, like a true joy to be around. And you bring a lot of people happiness just by your contribution to their lives, or just by your presence to their lives. I feel like some of you have quite an abundant wellspring of like internal wisdom, but you may not always extend that wisdom to everyone you meet. That might be something that as another layer, you keep reserved for people that you really trust, to show that part of yourself too. There's another message that some of you might do things a very unique way. Like, you might have very unique methods to do something that might not seem like they make sense to other people at first, but the things that you do can be misunderstood, but they all have good intentions and good results. Some of you might be called by a higher power to play a certain role, such as like the black sheep of your family, or maybe some of you feel like you play the weird kid in some circles. But the difference is that you have a higher purpose to them. And I feel like with some of you who walk that unique path, there are experiences that come with it that aren't accessible to everyone. I feel like some of you are going to have the ability to experience some things or some situations that are not accessible to the average person. I think that some of you are in store to have some really unique and enriching rewards and happy experiences from following what you love to do and your unique path, even if it might seem a little weird or a little out of place to other people. Some of you might practice your spirituality, or might be into the occult in a certain way, and I feel like that can be misunderstood by people on the surface level, for example. I also get the sense that pile 2, you are generally very balanced as well. Some of you have a very good balance of, say, like your divine feminine, your divine masculine energy. Whereas some people kind of skew one way or the other. You have always been naturally quite equal in the regard, or you have been able to rebalance things if they get out of whack a little bit. Yes, I definitely feel like this pile is a unique bunch, and I feel like less people will be in here with you, pile 2. But you are a very interesting and unique bunch. Some of you might be the goth looking kid that actually has a lot of varied and unique interests that other people wouldn't expect of them as well. I know that's a very specific message, but that's something I hear for some of you. So to add on to this, the final part of this first section, I'm going to pull a card to represent your potential in your divine gifts. Oh, and I'm getting one more message that something else that is very unique to you, pile 2, is that you are very at peace with your differences, whereas some people might get really insecure for being different or being quirky. It is a gift in itself to be at peace with being different and being comfortable being different, especially when other people can be scared to show their differences. So let's pull a card. What is a card to represent pile 2's potential? Okay, we have the Bardo, which I actually think is a little fitting with what I've said so far, because I have no idea what this is, and it's very interesting. So let me see what the Bardo is. We'll read this out to you. It is said that the Bardo is a place between this life and the next, a liminal realm through which souls pass. Envisioning this inherently mysterious space creates the potential for us to rise above the concerns of the world and see our relationships through a cosmic and timeless lens. We may receive messages from those who are no longer with us or see visions of lives not yet lived. In the Bardo, there is potential to forgive the unforgivable, to say the unsaid, to see the unseen, to love the unloved, to let go of all things that cause us pain. The Bardo suspends us in its spaciousness for just long enough to open us up to higher wisdom. Its energy does not belong to the earth as we know it, but rather to the cosmic network of which we are a single thread. So, what I am getting from that with what we've been talking about so far, pile 2, I feel like, first of all, you have the potential for being very psychic. And let me dive into that a little bit, because I do believe everyone on this earth has are psychic in some regard. Everyone has psychic abilities. It's something that we are all in tune with. But I feel like you uniquely have the potential to have a really strong version of a psychic gift. For example, you might be very naturally developed in one of the clairs, whether that's clairvoyant or clairaudience, etc. I feel like some of you may already be very versed in this, but for some of you, I think that there's potential to be able to develop one of those or a combination of those very quickly if you just put your mind to it and work on it a little bit. In that same vein, I feel like many of you have potential to, this is a very specific message, but maybe even have the potential to act as a good medium for communicating with the dead. And I do want to put the caveat that if any of you are interested in that, please be very careful, because while the Bardo is a very interesting and in between cosmic space, I kind of think of it as the veil or like an astral realm. I would encourage caution to anyone who deals with communicating or traveling to that space. Always ask your spirit guides for protection if you're thinking of doing something like that. That being said, I don't think that you have to intentionally connect with this other space. I think that this card is also speaking to your potential in receiving cosmic messages. If you're not already doing it, some of you might have a talent for some kind of divination tool. And I feel like especially divination tools that may not be as popularly used. Doesn't mean to say you have to use something that's not popularly used, but I do think that you might have a talent for that. Some things I might list off the bat are you don't see water scrying very much, or or tea readings, or using runes as much these days. Especially as a tarot reader myself, I quite like using tarot cards, but you might be particularly talented with a divination tool that is not very common. Lastly, to wrap up this section, I do want to pull some charms for you. Okay. Starting with these glasses over here, once again, I feel like right on the surface level, you're very interesting because people don't see you clearly for what you exactly are right off the bat. With you see, what you see is not what you get. What you see is only a tiny bit of what you get. People have to take a second look at you and understand you better to really get the depth of how special you are and how unique you are. I feel like this might also be confirming your potential talent for psychic gifts slash unique divination tools. With this star over here, I felt a lot of different connotations with this particular star in the past, but in this context, I feel like it's actually pointing to some occult activities, maybe not the most healthy ones, and I feel like it's off to his side because although off the bat, especially with this often misunderstood light as a feather stiff as a board game, I feel like some of the things that you do slash the vibes that you give off might seem to some people in that kind of spooky realm, alluding to some of the occult activities that are not encouraged and not managed by spirit, but by more malicious forces. But I feel like this is off to decide to say that even though you might seem like you might dabble in that kind of stuff, or I really am getting the feeling that some of you guys really like black, or like you're really into the goth style, and I feel like this is alluding to some of that. But this is off to the side to say that you are not actually like that in the beliefs that you do or the things that you practice. Under the surface, you are not scary or spooky or toxic. You are actually quite wonderful. Moving on to another charm. I feel like this money bag on top of higher power here. You might be very talented specifically in manifesting abundance with the universe or with the higher power. Or maybe that is a potential source of income for you. Maybe you potentially can make a lot of income by tapping into some of your psychic gifts. Is the vibe I'm getting there. Continue with your psychic gifts. I really feel like with Alice looking into this void here and even this hand touching it, I think that's like additional confirmation of how naturally close you are with being able to maybe not physically touch, but in other ways spiritually touch slash interact with the other realm a lot easier than other people. I would caution you towards, I would advise caution again. I get the feeling of like gazing into the void, so to speak. You can get a little lost in that. So remember to ground yourself, but I definitely feel like that is a psychic power that is extremely strong in you, pile 2. Yes, I feel like even with this mirror, it's kind of alluding to you're able to translate messages from the other side and translate them to people who are not as connected as you are. So to speak, like reflect the messages that you can hear to people who don't have that same gift. That is to say, I think we are good for this section. We are going to move into how can you, pile 2, be more in sync with your divine gifts. If you hear really big thumps all of a sudden, I will apologize in advance. My upstairs neighbor, I believe, has cinder blocks for feet. So please just be understanding of them. I don't know if it's a condition they were born with or it is a lifestyle choice. Hopefully that doesn't pick up too much in the video. But we are going to be pulling some tarot cards to see how you can be more in sync with your divine gifts. You must be doing some cinder block exercises up there. Okay, Spirit, how can pile 2 be more in sync with their unique gifts? I just wanted to point out another note on your uniqueness pile 2, because I all of a sudden started shuffling this in a different angle than I usually do, and feel like that's partially because of your energy. I got one card on got 2 cards. I'll pull 2 more. Okay. Pile 2. We've got Strength in reverse. We have the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. I actually feel like it's supposed to be upright. We have the Page of Wands in reverse. And we have the Ace of Wands. I feel like this one should also be upright. Story being told here. Okay, pile 2. So I get the idea that there's been times in your life where you've definitely had some self-doubt. You've definitely had a lack of confidence, or felt like you weren't up to par, so to speak, in some ways. Ooh. One second. Getting this notification that isn't supposed to be here. What the heck is this? Okay, let me see if I can plug my phone in some way. There's been times in the past where you, either for the same reason or for other ones, you felt like you had a lack of passion for some of the interests that you were really good at or trying really hard to get good at. Some of you might have been a little too strong-handed, either, I feel like physically, I feel like some of you haven't trusted in your internal strength or your mental strength, and maybe have tried to overcompensate other ways, maybe by focusing a lot on your physical strength or something similar to that. I feel like some of you might have overcompensated by being a little too chaotic in some ways. I feel like pile 2, the ways in which you can be more in sync with your divine gifts come in a few different ways. First of all, in trusting your own voice and your own intuition, first of all. You have a lot of internal strength that you may not have needed to draw upon yet, or maybe you were even too scared to draw upon because it's more powerful than you know, and maybe to some part of you, you're not ready to face that. But I feel like some of you guys really have a unique inner strength that needs to come out, and that may manifest in a few different ways. For some of you, I feel like you haven't spoken out or spoken your voice in the way that it deserves to be heard. I feel like some of you guys really need to take ownership in the unique passions that you might have, but maybe you're in the closet, so to speak, about some of them. But they are the unique things that you in particular have a talent for, and you should be able to hold that proudly and explore that. I feel like some of you can be more in sync with your unique gifts just by accepting that part of yourself and not being afraid to fail. I feel like some of you guys have been worried about how much you should follow your passions, so to speak, either because it's afraid of failure or feeling like you are not ready for it. But the truth is, the unique passions that you pile 2 are in line with were given to you for a reason. It's part of your divine plan to pursue some of these unique gifts that you have. And if you do, you'll find that the wheel of fortune turns in your favor. I feel like here Spirit is saying in a big way to push you to start a new venture with your divine gifts, or to fully embrace them and really embrace deep diving into them. Because that is going to be the way that they bring you the fortune that you're looking for, and is in tandem with the divine plan that is laid out for you. If you're willing to really buckle down and embrace these divine gifts and really deep dive into them, even if some of them seem uncommon or people might give you weird looks for them, you'll find that a lot of things will start falling into place for you. Even if you don't feel like you're ready, that doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't. So to summarize, I feel like there is definitely some doubt around some of the divine gifts that you already know you have, but you don't feel comfortable or confident in deep diving into them because some of them might seem unique or might be a different path than others, or maybe there's not as many resources available. But this is kind of your sign to say you have those gifts for a reason, and Spirit is going to guide you every step of the way if you fully decide to go down that route. So now we're going to move on to messages from Spirit about your gifts. So I'm going to pull 2 cards from one deck, and we'll pull some supporting cards from another deck. Spirit, what messages do you have for pile 2 about their unique gifts? And I've been using the words unique and divine interchangeably throughout these readings. I just want to point out that they are divine and they are unique. So Okay, we got Regeneration and Unfinished Symphony to start out here. And I'm going to pull 2 more. Have 2 more supporting cards with this, Spirit, for messages about Pile 2's gifts, or anything that they need to know in general. We've got Belladonna and Rowan. So I do have plenty of things to say, but I do want to start off with reading you guys the description, the books for Belladonna and Rowan in this context. And then we'll kind of connect it to everything else I'm feeling for you. So Belladonna is a plant beloved by the devil, and he gives many of its magical abilities to his allies. So fiercely does he care for it that he leaves a black hen to guard it when he is not present. You may not realize how many people value you and are looking out for your well-being. Support will come from them when you're least expecting it. But remember that when it does, that relationships like these are rare and hard to come by. And then for Rowan, we have... You've been lacking in inspiration lately, and it's making everything you do feel stilted and difficult. Chances are that you're just looking in the wrong places. Rowan was once called the Tree of Bards, as sitting beneath it would bring inspiration to any lacking in it, and nature is a great place to start looking now. Take a walk, see if you can name the plants that you pass or the birds that you hear. Those creative thoughts will come rushing back in no time. So a few synchronicities I have noticed right off the bat. First of all, with these first 2 cards, the impression I got even before pulling Rowan and Belladonna is there a project, especially a creative project, that you have either been starting anew or breathing new life into lately, that you can't find yourself finishing or feeling the courage to continue working on? Maybe you've been working on something for so long that you're losing confidence in your talent for it or your ability to finish it. Maybe like the message in the Rowan, you're feeling uninspired. Feel like Spirit is calling you to stick with it. And as is the message in the Rowan, spend some time in nature. Really, if you're feeling stuck like this, surround yourself in things that really nurture your soul, not just nature, especially affirmed by this tree and the regeneration here. And often that's a place where people are able to recharge. But in the things that you love doing, I feel like music is a healing vehicle for many of you guys. And also the message in the Belladonna, remembering that the people in your life value you so much, and even if they don't always express things in exactly the way we expect them to, that you do have at least a couple of very rare and very special relationships in your life that you should feel able to call upon for support, especially when you're feeling uninspired or you feel like there's something that you're working on that you really just need some extra energy to help finish. I also feel like with this Unfinished Symphony card, it's alluding also to, I mentioned in the last part of your reading that some of you guys haven't exactly owned your voice and that you might have important things to say, but that they're important and that you should come out and say them. I feel like a very specific message for some of you in that vein is maybe you have a gift for music, specifically in the vocal category, and you haven't fully owned that gift. You might have a unique voice, or you might have a unique taste in music, or you're just insecure about it and you haven't really wanted to come out about it. I feel like this is a message from Spirit to really embrace that and know that you're going to be supported every step of the way. I also feel like once you guys are willing to put in the work, to have some faith and really pursue what you're passionate about, it's going to bring about kind of a new rebirth for you. That's definitely the impression I'm getting from this regeneration card, that from completing either a specific project or this larger pursuit that you're passionate about, you're going to go through a rebirth of sorts where you come out a new version of yourself. Maybe you'll be more confident and you might step into a new chapter of your life. But all this to say, I feel like from getting context from all three parts of our reading so far, Spirit is really saying that many of you guys are already aware of some of the unique and special gifts that you have, but you haven't felt the courage or the inspiration to really deep dive into them the way that you know that you can. And I feel like this is a calling for you to do it. This is like an extra confirmation for you that you are going to be supported in doing it, and that you should take the leap, and now is the time to really embrace those passions, because it's going to push you into the next beautiful chapter of your life. I definitely feel like this is a time of transition for many of you, and that doing this is going to push you into that next chapter. I think that's all the messages I have for you today, Pile 2. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that some of this resonated with you and gave you some advice that's going to be helpful. If you feel called to, I very much appreciate if you could leave a like or subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye. Hi, Pile 3. If you noticed a background change, that's because I did continue recording at a different time. But if you're here and you picked the Lapis Lazuli wand, this is going to be your reading. What's going to happen is that this card is going to be kind of the heart of what we're talking about today with your unique gifts, and then we're going to pull some more context around it, and we'll ask some more questions from Spirit. So let's start with this first one, and you got number 1, Princess, you can be your own knight. So off the bat already, I think that this is a very strong signifier that you have always been really independent. I think you're not afraid to take charge of your own path, and you're also quite ambitious. With the way that the princess is looking outside of her tower in a very hopeful way, she seems like she's making plans for herself for the future, especially in the way that she's polishing the sword. I think that really points out that in addition to being independent and being so ambitious, maybe as a result or just part of that period, you also are quite a planner. You are great at making plans, or you're very determined to make plans to make your ambitions come true. And you are very patient in making preparations because you know that it's going to take certain steps and grit to get what you're looking for. So I think that's also emphasized in the way that she even has a book bag started here. It looks like she's already made her plans and she's just getting ready to go. And the fact that it's a sword in itself, I think it definitely points out to the fact that you're not afraid to fight for what you're looking to achieve in life. I think that nothing will hold you back. And if other people want to kind of keep you in your box or in your circle or in your comfort zone, or kind of are overprotective of you, I think that you are strong-willed enough to step out of that and kind of create your own destiny. So starting there, let's pull another 2 extra cards for context around this. You definitely remind me, for example, of like the character Fiona from Shrek. And yeah, I know Shrek's a meme, but it is unironically a good movie, okay? No matter what anyone says, and that's partially why it's a meme. But I feel like Fiona was actually one of those first characters that represented like a different kind of princess. But Spirit, may I have another couple cards to talk about Pile 3's unique and divine gifts. Ooh, we got this one coming out. We have Mending, getting a lot of healing energy from that. A lot of healing and friendship energy. Oh, you got 2 cards coming out for the extra ones. And we have Soulmates. Move Pumpkin Bourbon out the way. And Observer. So, right off the bat, as you can see here, with Observer and the princess looking out, especially with these similar colors, I think that's definitely emphasizing what I was saying about you being very ambitious and planning how to achieve your ambitions. I think this actually points to also a quality of yours of being very observant and how that helps you achieve your goals, because you're very good at taking a lay of the land, seeing things from a bird's eye view. It's a really strong vibe that I'm getting from both of these cards in particular as well. You're very good at stepping back, looking at the full picture, and that's partially why you're so patient, Pile 3, is that you can step back, look at the bigger picture, and know that even if there's smaller obstacles that come in your way and other people who may not be able to have the same ability to take a step back, kind of get frustrated or let it discourage them, because you are so good at being an observant person and being able to see things for the long run. You have this patience to know that small setbacks will not keep you from your larger goals in the end. I feel like in addition to being ambitious, you're also quite a dreamer. Like some of the qualities I've mentioned so far, kind of point to more traditionally masculine traits, and I don't mean that they're like predominantly displayed in men. I mean more masculine as in like divine masculine, more direct, more straightforward, very strong energy. I feel like, especially with the 3 cards that came out supporting you as well, I feel like that is to remind us that you are also quite a dreamer. Not only are you ambitious, but you have things that you want to achieve, and even though they are goals, but there is also a softer side to them. Maybe you're actually a bit more sentimental too. So I think that that's just to show that you are definitely still balanced. Like you have that strong-willed side to you, but it's not the only part of you for sure. And I mentioned when we first started pulling out these clarifiers that I was getting a lot of healing vibes. So I think that there's also a healing aspect to you. I think that you provide a lot of comfort to the people around you. In that way, you're a natural healer, especially with this Mending card and the way that these 2 fairies are interacting with each other. It feels very close-knit. There's a lot of like deep friendship I feel here. Maybe a big part of your motivations and your determinations for succeeding are a result of you wanting to provide for those around you. I'm definitely getting the vibe that when you do succeed and when you do kind of gain bounties from your adventures, you very much share them with those around you, because you also have a very strong heart. The way that the princess here is looking out the tower, but as we add this card, it adds these fairies here. I think that gives a very like fond, nurturing vibe to the people you care about in your life. And you want to, part of the reason you want to succeed so well is so that you have the resources to share and give with the people you love, and to be able to lift up others who may not have the same inner strength that you do right off the bat, which I think is pretty awesome. I also get the feeling with this soulmates card that in that same vein, for some of you, I'm feeling that you have a very romantic side of you as well. And I feel like that also extends to the rest of you in, as I mentioned before, you being very nurturing with the people you care about. I think some of the people in your life right now that you want to provide for or take care of so much are definitely within your soul family. And that may be why you feel such a strong need to nurture them. And I definitely feel like with the soulmates card as well, I feel like it's a strong indication that not only are you a force to reckon with within yourself and completely capable of making all of the goals that you're pursuing come true, but you're also being supported by, of course, everyone has their own spirit guides, but I feel like with this card, there's some members within your soul tribe that may not have incarnated in this lifetime yet that are definitely kind of in the background, cheering you on and helping you in other ways. Yes, I'm definitely getting the vibe of like additional soulmates playing more of a background role in your life, just since you are like so good at being like having main character energy, so to speak, being the protagonist. But they are definitely back there supporting you. For me, this soulmates card feels very connected with the sky background, and that's where I get that vibe from. Also in the way that soulmates is here behind the princess, and like I said, just supporting her before she goes on her venture. I think that there's also a message there for you that you are being supported by soul family that has not incarnated into your present conscious lifetime. Cool. So continuing on that, we're going to draw 2 more cards here for something exceptional about you, Pile 3, on top of what we've already talked about so far. And then we're going to look into a card to represent your potential. Spirit, may you tell me more about what is exceptional about Pile 3. Ooh, we got 1. We have serendipity, and this one was jumping out at me, and breathe. Right off the bat with the serendipity card, I feel like not only are you inherently very lucky, and that might definitely come from the support coming from your soul family, but you are very lucky in several different ways. Not only do you find things just coming up good for you when it really needs to, not necessarily every single time you want to, or when you want to win the lotto or something, but when you really need that burst of luck for your greater good, I feel like that's where the luck comes in for you. I feel like you are also the type to stumble upon really great relationships, not necessarily romantic, they could be, but they could also be friendships, is what I'm really feeling here. You attract the right people into your life really easily, and in that way, maybe with one special person or more than one special friendship you have in your life, you found the way you met them to be very serendipitous. That is to say that you weren't really looking for them, but you stumbled upon them and it ended up being something beautiful later on. Definitely feeling like you are quite lucky there, Pile 3, and you should be aware of this luck that's turning up for you, because not everyone has the same amount. With this breathe card, I feel like one, it emphasizes what I mentioned earlier about you having some healing abilities and being a very nurturing force for those around you. You feel very like a very stable source of comfort for those around you, but I feel like you're also very level-headed. Maybe you get heated at times, especially when you're trying to protect those that you love, but as a whole, you're very good at staying calm in difficult situations. Even if you're having difficulty getting through something, on a larger level, you always pull through in the end. With the imagery of this breathe card, I am also feeling the analogy of a lotus flower. So especially in like Buddhist teachings, The lesson that the lotus flower gives us is that it starts in the mud at the bottom of the lake, and it has to push through this thick layer of mud, and no one sees it while it's under the surface. Before it's become its full bloomed lotus flower on top of the water, as it's pushing through this layer of mud, through this layer of dirt and difficulty, nobody knows that it's there or the effort that it's doing, but it doesn't mean that that effort isn't still important or that it's still happening. But once that lotus flower keeps pushing and keeps growing through that mud, as soon as they emerge, as soon as they break that surface and get that breaking point, when they come out on top, they are like the most beautiful thing on the water. They're this beautiful lotus flower who is not only bloomed, but none of the mud that it pushed through is left traces on its petals. That is to say, in Buddhist teachings, the lotus flower is like something to learn from and covet and try to embody, because similarly to that, we go through a lot of hardships in our life, and much of our struggles at times are very private and very internal, and other people may not see us pushing through that, but it's still just as important, because once we push through that layer of mud and we come out on top, we leave behind all of that mud and come into like the true version of ourselves, which is that beautiful lotus flower. I feel like not only do you have the potential to do that if you haven't achieved that already, pile 3, I feel like you're doing that in little ways in all of the hardships that you have overcome and will continue to overcome. In all of the smaller battles in your life, you've definitely embodied this lotus flower energy where you maybe have to deal with very toxic environments or toxic people, but when you came out on top, you were like this lotus flower. You didn't carry that negativity with you, and you really kept yourself clean and positive and just purely who you really are at heart. Yes, as a general vibe, you're definitely giving me lots of like main character energy, pile 3. I'm going to pull out some charms. Oh, actually before that, I want to do our card to represent your potential, and then I will do charms before we move on. Didn't pull this one out quite yet, so let me get this set up. Spirit, may I have a card to represent pile 3's potential? Okay, we have the Poet. So the messages that I'm getting from this pile 3 is, first of all, that you have the potential to not just have, but share some very inspirational and in-depth tales to share with other people. I think that you probably have a lot of good stories of your personal hardships and struggles, especially private ones that other people would benefit from hearing. I think if you're not already, you have the potential to also be very eloquent, and the general vibe I'm getting from this is not just the stories that you're sharing are inspirational. I think that the way you tell them also has the potential to spark a lot of inspiration for people. And that could be literally in poetry. It could also be in like songwriting, in novel writing, and other kinds of writing. The written word, I think, is a very strong medium for you to share the things that you have to say, pile 3. I think that this is definitely pointing to lots of potential for you to be creative and taking the things that you learn and expressing them in mediums that you may not have explored before. But you can also think of this similar to, I'm getting like the vibe of a bard, which is like a traditional singer or like traveling songwriter, so to speak, who, you know, usually sings about other heroes' tales. But what's cool about you, pile 3, is that you do already have like that main hero energy. So who better to tell the stories of your experiences than yourself? I think that there is a calling here for you to share what you have learned and what you have gone through in whichever way calls to you the best. So grabbing some charms for you, pile 3. Okay. I think this mirror appearing by this breathe card and by this water points to a very reflective person. I think that you, partially why you're so level-headed, and I think also very down-to-earth to the people around you, is you're not full of yourself. Even though you're pretty awesome, you also take time to self-reflect and really learn from your past mistakes, your past experiences, and help and use the lessons from that to become a better person. I think that you have a very good level of self-awareness that other people may not have as naturally. And not only does that help you in pursuing your goals, but I think it's a very refreshing quality that people find about you, pile 3. This little witchy hat on the poet card, I think that first of all, it is really emphasizing the potential of the level of your story writing or your poems or whichever creative outlet you choose to go into, pile 3. I think that this is a metaphor to say that they really do have the potential to be quite magical to people. Maybe you have a very unique way of sharing things, but it's a way that's unique to you, and that might be one of the many reasons why there's a calling here for you to share that. In that same vein, this tree of life appearing on this poet card, and especially to me by what at first seems like a moon, but in this context I feel represents this creative project or this story or this poem that hasn't been birthed yet, but through you has the potential to come into this world. I think that, again, it's really important that you consider sharing what you have to say in a creative form, because I think not only is it going to be very magical to people, I think it's going to have a life of its own. I think that it has the potential to be very significant and sort of almost be bigger than you already are. Maybe you telling this story sparks something that, like I mentioned earlier, that the phrase takes on a life of its own, I think feels very strong here. But that's only possible through you and through the way you want to share. I think this puzzle piece adds another dimension to your luckiness and your serendipity. I think that this might clarify that a lot of your luck, like I mentioned earlier, kind of appears right when you need it. Or in this case, appears right when you need the last piece to something or a very crucial piece of a puzzle you're trying to understand. You have a lot of luck for finding precisely the thing that you need and leaving all the other pieces appear in ways that you already yourself know how to find them, but you get a little extra help in whichever pieces you need a little extra help in finding. And finally, with this dolphin here by mending, I think first of all that emphasizes again your healing powers, pile 3. I feel like the dolphin has a very healing and psychic and playful, friendly energy to it, and that might represent the way that you handle your relationships. I think that those close to you, especially those that you are trying to protect and trying to nurture for, see you as a super fun dolphin who is a ride or die kind of friend who is always there to nurture them and is very emotionally intelligent as well. There's some water placements in here that might be significant, but as an overall vibe, I feel like you are very in tune with your emotions, especially that of love and care towards the people that are important to you in your life. And those around you appreciate you for that. From some of the feelings that I'm getting in myself as well, I think that you're also a very warm-hearted person. There's a lot of feelings of warmness, of creativity, of Ooh, definitely a sense of adventure. I think, especially, I mean, we started with a princess card, but there's like another level of, there's like a very strong explorer in you, pile 3. So we are going to move on to how can you be more in sync with your unique gifts, pile 3. For that, we are going to pull some tarot cards. Spirit, please share with us how pile 3 can be more in sync with their divine / unique gifts. Sorry, pile 3, my camera cut out there. So, ooh, we already got one. So we have the King of Wands. How can pile 3 be more in sync with their unique gifts? We've got the Magician, lots of fire energy already. I'm feeling a lot of natural passion from you, pile 3. Lots of that drive that I told you about, the drive that pushes your ambition to achieve the things that you want in life. We've got Temperance. And one more. You've got the Page of Swords. So some messages I can feel right off the bat, pile 3, is one of the ways you can be more in sync with your unique gifts is to work on fully believing in yourself and your abilities. I hope that pointing out some of your gifts at the beginning might help with that, but definitely be mindful that you have a lot of great things going for you. So there's no reason why you shouldn't feel more confident or more secure within yourself and the things that you want to pursue. Maybe some of you have times where having such strong passion, and in some ways I feel such strong emotion, especially when it comes to the things that you care about, maybe you felt an insecurity around that. Maybe there's been times where you felt like you were being too much, so to speak, but I feel like there's a message here to kind of quell some of that. I think that you have a lot of this fire and this passion for a reason, and there's always healthy ways to use that energy, and it doesn't mean that you have to repress it. I think that strong will is emphasized even more with the Magician card here, and I think that another way to be more in sync with your unique gifts is to really believe in not just manifestation as it is, but your individual ability to manifest. It doesn't require a strong level of psychic power, even though we all have the power to be psychic, or anything special, or anything crazy to manifest. You can manifest at any time, and oftentimes you're manifesting even when you don't realize it. Especially you, pile 3, because you were such a passionate and determined and visionary bunch. I think that there's a message here that you should bring more awareness to that you are always manifesting, and you should be aware of your strong ability to do that. And again, to believe in yourself more in your own abilities, because you can accomplish such great things. And the first step of that is just to believe that you can, and to believe in yourself. I think that with the pose of these first 2 cards here, Spirit is really calling you to kind of like hold your power in your hand, hold it up in the sky, and be like, hell yeah, I can do this. I can figure it out, and even if I don't have all the answers right now, they're going to appear in front of me. I feel like at the same time, for those of you who already feel like you do that pretty well, I feel like Temperance here is separating these 2 kinds of sides of the multiple messages here, and that's one side. I feel like another side is that some of you may be so passionate at times that you forget to bring a little bit of reason back in. Or that you forget to think, or maybe you have like really strong Gryffindor energy, and because you're so passionate, sometimes you might just run in there. Even though I mentioned at the beginning you do have a gift for planning, maybe you don't necessarily use it all the time. But I feel like with Temperance and this Page of Swords, there's a message for some of you to moderate some of that strong, willful energy that you have with even just like a very basic level of thought, or maybe you pause before you rush into things and think about how you might do that. And another message I'm getting is that if you just bring awareness to doing that, maybe bringing like a little bit of mental energy back into the situation to complement your strong drive and your strong will, it's going to make it even more effective. Kind of similar to the way that just a little bit of wind ends up really fanning flames for a passion project, or literally fire. I think there's a message here that there's some moderation, some balance to be practiced both ways, both with bringing some more thought. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. You don't have to sit there and don't have to plan your every single move, but a basic level of thoughtfulness and planning to your willful and your determined pursuits, and at the same time believing in yourself more and knowing that you have the power to achieve the things that you are setting out to do. I'm getting more emphasis on your main character energy, pile 3, with the cards that we have here, and you're being synced with your unique gifts. You'll definitely step into a more powerful version of yourself by practicing confidence and intentional action. I think part of that Page of Swords messaging that I was trying to explain may not be always quite literal mental thought, but I think that intention, that conscious intention in the actions that you take, is also a form that can manifest in. Yes, I think that is the message to be said here. But we're going to move on to the last part, which is going to be messages from Spirit about your gifts. Kind of like an open space for Spirit to tell you whatever you need to hear right now, whether it's pertaining to your gifts or to something else. So we are going to pull 2 of these and 2 from another deck to get the whole picture here. Spirit, what messages do you have for pile 3? We got 1, which is TikTok, which is a very reoccurring card I've been getting for all of these piles. So, ooh, and we have 3 cards here. So we have TikTok, Go to Distance, and New Life. I'm gonna pull a couple more from our Friendly Seed and Sickle guidebook, just for some additional context. We have Cherry and the Sickle. Ooh. So I've got a few things coming to the surface right off the bat. So first of all, with the Sickle appearing next to New Life, the Sickle is very much representative of cutting out things that we don't need. Maybe as an analogy, like the old and withering plants from the last harvest, from leftover weeds, from limiting beliefs that we don't need anymore, in order for us to step into a new cycle of rebirth and a next cycle of growth in our lives. I think that starting some of the messages that Spirit has for you is, especially in the way that the princess was portrayed as looking out, taking lay of the land, and preparing for a journey. I think that there is a message here that there's a journey that you are soon going to be embarking, pile 3. It is a planned journey that you may not have necessarily been planning recently. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but nonetheless, has been in the cards for you, pun intended, for a while now. And now is going to be the time to act, to go on this journey, quite literally towards a next chapter in your life. Now that I'm realizing it, it's kind of like this definitely feels not necessarily like a race, but kind of like a prearranged sprinting event, so to speak, or a marathon that you've already planned to do, where this is kind of like the beginning starter line where they pull down the flag and say go, and then you sprint out the gate and you reach the finish line. This journey could be a lot of different things, especially because this is a general reading. This could be a personal journey that you're doing. I definitely feel like in general it's a journey of growth for sure. It could be now you're finally jumping out of the gate to go towards one of those goals that you've been planning to go after recently. But for all of you, once you go to distance and you get there, this is going to be a huge new part of your life where you have gained a lot of new lessons, where you're emerging as a different part of yourself. Maybe this also means that you are emerging as a newer version that's closer to your true self. Maybe you're going to be more confident. You're going to feel like you have ridded a lot of limiting beliefs that you've had in the past, that maybe you've had past trauma that you've been working on getting rid of, and that's finally going to be gone. There is a great sense of relief and on some level an ascension here, especially with the figure here being on a pedestal and glowing. I feel like you're going to be bursting out of your old skin and really feeling lifted and enlightened here. And in this new body, you're going to be holding this sickle in your hand and feeling much more empowered to clear out all of that old growth that you don't need, all of the old negativity that you don't need. And for some of you, this might also be people in your life that no longer serve you. But anything under that box that, as I said, no longer serves you, that's going to be something that leaves your environment. I feel like with both this TikTok card reminding me of like a stop timer, and the imagery of the cheetah, I feel like this is going to be a very relatively fast, it may not be fast in like Earth time, but fast-paced journey for you. It's going to feel very rapid fire. It's going to move very quickly. And I think it's going to be very intense, but you can handle it, pile 3 for sure. I do want to look up what cherry means in the guidebook here. You've got cherry, which is number 7, which is a lucky number. Once again, pile 3. Okay, cherry. In the south of England, wild cherry trees are associated with the cuckoo. A common belief in the region says that the cuckoo will sing until it's eaten its fill of cherries thrice over. An abundance of resources means that this is the perfect time to focus on your body is telling you what is it needed to support right now. Whether that's a balanced diet or a more regular sleep schedule, listen to its needs and let it guide you forward. I feel like especially in this context, the cherry here, especially in this placement of how things are going, you have been preparing for a journey, for an adventure like this, pile 3. And maybe right before you embark, you should take one more little check of, the to-dos you need to do before you embark on this. Do a very deep self-care check and make sure you have everything you need to go through this intense cycle of growth. Make sure that you're fed well, that your mind is clear, that you have your priorities set straight, and that you remember how loved you are. And once you're ready to go, everything is going to move very quickly. And it's going to propel you into this new cycle of new life and growth for you, pile 3. Which is very exciting. I wish you lots of luck on this adventure, but I think we're going to end the reading here. And I want to say thank you so much for spending your time with me and giving me the opportunity to read for you. if you feel called to, I would definitely appreciate leaving a like and or subscribing, and let me know if anything resonated with you. Thank you so much, Pile 3. I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Hi, Pile 4. If you picked the Amethyst Heart, this is going to be your reading today. So if you notice the setup and the lighting's a little different, this is because it is another day. But what we're going to do is, this is going to be the card that kind of represents the heart of the divine gifts of yours we're going to be talking about today. We'll pull some more cards for context, and we are going to ask plenty more questions to Spirit to get a full picture for you. So let's get right into your reading. Ooh, you've got number 2, Evil Queen. You deserve sugar, not salt. So right off the bat, Pile 4, I think you were an extremely clever bunch. And I think you're definitely a bunch that can get misunderstood at times, especially with this you deserve sugar, not salt. Maybe you do things in an unconventional way that can be misunderstood, but you have good intentions. And I think you deserve more credit for that. But I think we will be better served with some contextual cards to go more into that. But I think you're also definitely very interesting. You don't travel the most used path. I think that you take a different route than other people. And I think that you are very real as well. I think that you don't sugarcoat things, so to speak, and you don't put up a front. For you, what people see is what they get. Exactly with that Truth Be Told card. Yes, with this Truth Be Told card, you are very honest. Maybe some people might even consider brutally honest, but I think that honesty is a trait that is so overlooked by people, because sometimes people just want to hear the things they want to hear, not necessarily the things that they need to hear. But you have a lot of wisdom to share and a lot of truth to share. My camera cut out while I was talking, but yes, so as I was saying, you're very honest, and not everyone appreciates that. When I was speaking, we also got our third card here, which alludes, just as I was saying earlier, you are not afraid to take the path less traveled by. I think that you're definitely not afraid to take the path that also seems intimidating to other people. Maybe a path that is harder or is more mysterious, but you get to benefit from the bounty of that yourself. I think that with some of the imagery we have here too, on the outside, you might seem really mysterious to people and maybe a little bit intimidating. Similarly to the imagery that we're getting in here, I get the impression that to some people, you seem like a stark and ominous force, so to speak. And they're afraid to get to know you, or they're afraid to approach you at times. Maybe because you might have a reputation similar to the Evil Queen, or I get the feeling that a lot of you are quite introverted, and as an introvert myself, I can definitely resonate with that. Maybe similarly to, I'm thinking of a witch who lives deep into the woods. You're simply just withdrawn, like more withdrawn from the crowd than people normally are, and that causes people to just make up stories about you just based on what they hear, or sometimes even just make it up completely, and maybe that creates a reputation that makes you seem a certain way. But if people actually take the time to get to know you and go to distance to meet you and who you are, I think that that's when they find the truth about who you are. With the really pretty rainbow pastel colors, I'm getting both an Evil Queen and Truth Be Told. I mentioned earlier that you definitely have good intention. I think that behind what seems to be a rough exterior, and that may manifest in different ways, like I mentioned, you might just look intimidating to some people, you actually hold a lot of treats for people. You have a lot of valuable things to tell them. And what people see on the outside definitely doesn't speak on the beautiful parts of your actual soul internally. I mentioned before that you have a lot of wisdom to share. I think that's definitely emphasized as well with the owl here, that you have a different perspective on things, and that uncommon perspective is something that a lot of people really do need to hear. That you can often shed light in a different way to people's situations that maybe they don't hear from their friends and family immediately around them, who might be a little too scared to hurt their feelings a little bit or tell them a hard truth because they don't want to affect their relationship. You take this role where you are actually so good at heart that maybe you're even willing to play the villain sometimes because you know that people need to hear hard things, even if they blame you, which I think is actually very noble of you, pile 4. I think that you're not afraid of difficult situations and you're not afraid of chaos as well, which is sometimes necessary to get to the place that we are meant to be. I mentioned that you're not afraid to play the villain, and I think that in that way, oftentimes, especially in like Disney movies, people don't understand that conflict is often the catalyst that allows the hero to go on their journey of growth and to discover who they truly are. I think you're very unafraid of stepping out your comfort zone and encouraging others to do the same and to do shadow work and really look into the darker side of things so you can better understand how to walk in the light. I think also because of this unique perspective you have, pile 4, you have a very good sense of direction. It could be physically, it could be literal, but I think in this case, it's also contrary to what it might seem like to some people. You have a very good sense of like moral direction. You have a very strong moral compass. You know, you have a natural sense for which paths people can take and the consequences of them. And even if a consequence seems bad at first, you have a foresight on, even if a potential path seems dangerous or seems confusing, you knowing that that one is going to lead to the ultimate good outcome. And that oftentimes these kinds of journeys and these paths you can take are not rainbows and sunshine. And that is something you inherently know, pile 4. I think you are super, super wise. That is getting like such a strong vibe that I am getting from this pile. But we are going to continue pulling some more cards to tell us more about your divine gifts. So Spirit, can I learn some more about what is exceptional about pile 4? In the words of a couple of cards, what else is exceptional about pile 4? Ooh, we've got higher power. Precisely what I was saying before about you having so much wisdom. I think that even if you don't seem traditionally, let's use an analogy like the Good Witch, like Linda in Wicked, you are actually very spiritual and you are connected to a strong magic and a higher power. We also have serendipity, which is interesting, came out for the last pile. I think that a unique message I'm getting from you that I didn't get for last pile for that card is that you are very connected to nature. And I think that definitely has something to do with this higher power. You're quite connected to nature. You might even have a unique connection with fairies. Pile 4 is something that I am feeling. But other than that, I think that this is usually a marker that you may have some luck to you. I think the vibe I'm getting for you in particular is you might already or not be aware of, but you have a talent for different kinds of magic and potentially divination. Something that I'm kind of feeling from this card is like the magic of charms, so to speak. You might already be really into lots of witchy rituals or practices, and If not, that might be something you want to look into, because I think that I'm getting a lot of good witch energy from this and that you have a talent for that. I think that you can conjure up a lot of things naturally, is the vibe I'm getting from the serendipity card. I think that one of the benefits of you not being afraid to take the path less traveled by is one of the ways that spirit supports you in particular is that they help you find everything that you need to find. Even if other people don't fully understand you at times, pile 4, spirit still lays out these 4-leaf clovers for you because you do deserve sugar, not salt, and you are still being greatly supported, especially because you play this sometimes harder role of delivering the hard truth that people are not always ready to hear. There's definitely a very earthy and natural vibe to you. You could have Virgo, Taurus, or other earth placements, or you can just be very grounded as a person. I think that definitely fits in with some of the gifts we've been talking about so far as well. But yes, I do want to pull a card for us to represent your potential. And then when we move to the next part, I actually want to use a different tarot deck with you than I have with the other piles so far. Pile 4, because that just feels like it's fitting in with you. So, Spirit, may we have a card to represent pile 4's potential. Pile 4's potential. Ooh. Yeah, this one jumping out at us. It's very fitting. The shadow. So right in line with what I was saying earlier, pile 4, you are not afraid of the darkness. And a lot of people, especially when they're new to spiritual growth and doing spiritual work, it can seem daunting to do shadow work. But shadow work is just as important as light work for us to grow as people, for us to understand the hardships of life that we are all subject to. I think what other people may not understand at times, but you do so naturally, is understanding the shadow, especially the archetype of the shadow, is what helps us understand what we need to understand about trauma, about toxic people in our lives, about all the unpleasant things that we are subject to. I think oftentimes people forget that if we don't understand those and we don't take time to really sit with that, and a big message is coming through is sit and learn from our fears in particular, there's no way for us to find the path that moves us forward. I think that you have the potential to be like a sage level learner of shadow work in particular. And I think that you are such an expert in this that people would really benefit traveling to go see you to ask about these things, because it is more of a taboo subject, a subject that people are not often comfortable with, but it is very much within your realm, and that is such an important role, pile 4. With this elephant family right here, I think this points to a really deep level of emotional intelligence. Elephants are known to be one of the most emotionally intelligent and emotionally aware species of animals that we know, that have formed really strong bonds, and again are another source, a symbol of wisdom. I feel like your familiarity with the darker parts of life and darker emotions that people aren't more willing to explore because they're not very comfortable is definitely a natural result of you being so emotionally intelligent. I feel like this dolphin, in this context, actually continues to emphasize your familiarity with the darker parts of life. I think you've definitely had your fair share of unique hardships, pile 4, because I see this dolphin kind of swimming through the shadow and yet not losing the purity that makes them the dolphin, and not losing the love that they inherently have. I think that while you are close to these subjects, you don't let them affect you. You don't let them corrupt you. And I think that that's a very special gift to have, pile 4. Because oftentimes one of the reasons why people are so scared to explore shadow work and things like that is they're afraid that they aren't strong enough to surround themselves in that or to explore that more. But I think that this is a symbol that you do that so well, and that you really shine in this area because you explore it, but you don't let it affect you on a deeper level. I think this bird in its cages sometimes can represent, a feeling of quite literally being trapped, but I think for you it's the opposite. I think that this is actually a emphasizer again on you are being protected, and I think that you also have the ability to protect other people from more negative energies and from undue hardship. And that's one of, again, the important reasons to understand these other subjects, to better be able to protect ourselves from them and protect those around us. And I think you hold a lot of those answers for other people, pile 4. But we are going to wrap up this section and we are going to move on to some tarot cards. And partially because you have such a natural and earthy vibe to you, pile 4, I actually want to pull out a different tarot deck than I have been using for the other readings for this section. I think that there's some messages for you in here because very on brand with what we've been seeing with you so far. I get the Guardian of the Night. I think that describes you very well. So we are going to pull some cards to figure out how you can be more in sync with your unique gifts, pile 4. Spirit, how can pile 4 be more, these are big cards, a little hard to handle, all good. How can pile 4 be more in sync with their unique gifts? We've got 5 of Pentacles. We've got the Knight of Pentacles. Kind of coming out. We've got the Hierophant. And Temperance. Which Temperance has been coming out really often for other piles too. So I wonder if there's this overarching theme of moderation in this reading for everyone. But some of the messages that are already coming out to me, pile 4, is one of the ways that you can be more in sync with your unique gifts is to really embrace kind of an authoritative role with the knowledge that you have. That can manifest in a lot of different ways. Maybe you embracing being a teacher for someone, maybe you embracing being a recognized expert in your craft or your area of expertise. And in this context, it seems like your expertise on more taboo subjects, whatever that might be for you. I think that that is one way for people to really see you in a new light and see you as you're really meant to be seen. Someone who really understands all the motifs and all the lessons around the night and darker subjects and more taboo subjects. I think that a lot of people will look up to you if you embrace that role. Using your wisdom, your unique wisdom that you have, is a gift that's really going to be the key to you protecting yourself and those around you from unnecessary chaos and disorder, especially when it comes to like money matters. You might make your living in an untraditional way to other people, and maybe sometimes you doubt yourself and your intuition, but I think there's a message here to really trust your intuition and your unique wisdom in the best ways to manage the affairs of your household, even if they're not the traditional routes that people take. I'm getting a specific message for some of you that maybe some of you make your living now or have a potential to make your living through being some kind of merchant, maybe having your own shop or providing something for other shops. That is a specific message that's coming through really strongly for me. So I didn't start my camera again, but here we are. We're going to talk about how you can be more in sync with your unique gifts. Temperance has come up with all the piles so far in this section of the reading. So I feel like in different ways, all of you guys can invite some more moderation into your life, but that's going to mean something different to everyone. In your case, I get the feeling that maybe you are a little too hard on yourself at times, and maybe some of you guys seem to be a little bit uncomfortable stepping into some of your softer emotions. Maybe you have difficulty being vulnerable. I feel like, especially with the imagery of this frog/toad really cautiously dipping into the water here. At the same time, we don't know if he's fully dipping in or coming out. I feel like that's a little representative of some of you guys, pile 4, where you feel like you want to take this cautious little dip into some of the depths of your emotions, but you're kind of worried what you're going to find there. And I think for a lot of you, that fear comes from fear of being vulnerable, possibly because there are those of you who are misunderstood since you are unique from those around you. With this 5 of Pentacles too, I definitely feel like that is a strong emotion here, that maybe some of you have experienced some loss or some form of abandonment, especially in your relationships with other people in the past, and that might make you afraid to be more vulnerable in the future. But I feel like the message here is you might be holding yourself back just a little too much in that, because a lot of your wisdom can shine through your emotions as well. And I think that there is an emphasis on how much wisdom you potentially have to share, pile 4, not just from the placements we've had in our reading so far, but I feel like this owl is really sticking out to me. And it reminds me of the owl we had in the beginning of our reading, despite them being from different decks. That reoccurrence is really jumping out at me to emphasize the level of wisdom that you have to share. Lastly, I feel like for some of you guys, one of the ways you can use some of your deep-set wisdom and intuition is to seek out ways that you can make a living that are untraditional or unique compared to what other people are used to. I definitely feel like there is a talent here for you, pile 4, to look for unconventional ways to bring in income. And I'm getting the sense from different sources as well. I think that's all the messages that we have here. So what we're going to do is we're going to move forward into messages from Spirit. We are pretty much going to open the floor to any messages that Spirit has for you. Could be related to your unique gifts, it could not be. So we'll start with 2 leading cards and we will get some context as well. Spirit, what messages do you have for our lovely pile 4s? Messages do you have for pile 4? Ooh, we got one flying out. We have leg up, And pull more from here. Oop, this one seems to want to coming out. And the Fates. This is also a card that keeps popping out for our piles in today's video, so that is quite interesting. You guys might all be slightly connected to each other in some way. I need to pull some contextual cards. Spirit, may I have some additional context for pile 4's messages, please? Feels like this one wants to come out. We have Rose. It's a very striking color. I feel like I want to put this over here, even though I've been starting on the other side. Ooh. I feel like this one's jumping out as well. And we have Chamomile. Yes, yes, yes. So I'm going to start off with some of the message here, and then I want to pull from the guidebook for these two. But right off the bat, pile 4, there might be something that is concerning some of you guys. There might be a situation, specifically one that's kind of causing you stress. And I feel like a message that's really coming through here, it could be specifically pertaining to that situation or just a general message. But one thing Spirit wants to tell you is that it's okay to chill out a bit because help is coming to you. Some of that help or all of that help is definitely coming from Spirit, for sure, with this leg up and the Fates here. Whatever is currently happening has been in the cards, is already planned out, and thus the outcome / the solution is also in the cards for you. It is playing out exactly as it's meant to play out, and Spirit is sending the solution to you. So both with this chamomile card and the chilly, frosty imagery in here, I'm definitely getting that general message of chill out. It's all gonna be good. There's also this feeling of some kind of spark that's going to happen. Maybe whatever situation you're going through is going to require some kind of spark of creativity to catalyze the solution or to pull you through. So I feel like there's definitely this spark of inspiration that's also coming your way, that's coming directly from Spirit. There's an interesting duality here where I feel there is a good exact balance of some hot and cold energy. So there might be a message connected to that last Temperance card that things might be going into balance soon, or this might be a calling for you to find ways where you can feel more balanced as the situation is unfolding. But I'm going to go ahead and pull Chamomile and Rose for us to read. So we've got 49 Chamomile. The number is also really pointing itself out to me in Chamomile, and I don't always notice numbers when I'm doing readings. I don't think that they always apply every time, but this 49, which reduces to 13. I thought of 13 at first, which is kind of a karmic number and can be a little disorderly, but then I immediately thought of 4 afterwards. So I definitely feel like it's another emphasis on stability coming soon, that things are good. Things are going to be good. So we have for Chamomile, everything feels harder than usual lately. You come to this point because you've pushed yourself too far and too hard, and you're literally running on empty. If you keep going the way you have been, you're going to burn out entirely. Exercise some kindness towards yourself while you still can. Don't be afraid to take time for yourself. Channel Chamomile's soothing, restorative properties by making a cup of tea, taking a nap, and finding a new sense of balance and harmony to replace your energy. That's exactly what I was talking about, pile 4. So I definitely got that sense with our last Temperance card for you in particular. But with the emphasis on the Chamomile card here and this like whole chill out thing, I maybe with some more context now, this hot and cold thing, this hot energy you might be feeling might be specifically that stress, might be you quite literally burning out. And this is a message for you from Spirit to slow down, to find some ways to decompress. Like they mentioned, take a cup of tea and really take this time to relax and remember that everything is going to be good in the end, especially with this Fates card here of you're being supported by Spirit, and they really want to remind you here to take a step back and let them step in and do some of the work for you. Even though you are such a hard worker, you don't have to do everything yourself. They're more than happy to come and offer some help, and they would like to do that. But some of you guys might need to step back a little bit and create some room for them to come in and help you there. So we're going to move to Rose. Hanging a rose from a ceiling, a tradition which started with the Romans and continues today, indicates that any conversation which takes place in its presence must be kept in strictest confidence. It's time to finally tell that secret that's been gnawing away at you. Choose your confidant carefully. It may be that they have something they've also been wanting to share. Your relationship can only grow stronger through trusting each other. So there's a couple different messages I'm feeling for this one already. First of all, I mentioned to some of you guys, I was getting the sense that Spirit was calling some of you guys to try and work on being more comfortable, being vulnerable. I think that was an emphasis with this here, especially with the Rose card being in that same area as Temperance was, and where I felt that message coming from. I think one, it's an emphasis to try to allow yourself to be a little more vulnerable, but in addition to that, maybe some of you guys feel uncomfortable asking for help and or sharing your feelings. And I think one of the message from Spirit here is to allow yourself to confide in someone that's close to you. That could be a friend, it could be a partner, it could be family, just anyone that you feel safe trusting in, because I think that's going to lift a big burden off of you. I think that maybe you are uncomfortable being vulnerable because you don't know how the other person might react to some of the things you might tell them. But I think Spirit is reassuring you that sharing things with someone and being vulnerable, if they are a good person, will only bring you guys closer. So I definitely think there is a message here for you to unload some of your stress with a trusted confidant, so to speak. I think there is an extra layer of reassurance from Spirit here, because the way that this rose vine is wrapping around here and leading off towards this light, and the way that it mirrors the string of lights also enveloping this person, I think there's an extra message that, again, an emphasis that you are being protected, that you are surrounded by love, at least from your spirit guides at all times. And this is a reminder for you to really trust in that. And maybe while you're relaxing, to put some intention on trying to feel some of the love that they have for you, because it's there. It's just a little more quieter than things that we might experience for ourselves in the traditional 3D world that we live in. But I think on top of that, there's a message here that there might be ways for you to find beauty in small things. And I think with this rose card and the way that these flowers are glowing as well, I think there is another message to try and stop and smell the roses, so to speak. Pause, and while you're relaxing, take the time to count your blessings. And I know that sometimes people say that in kind of a condescending manner, but I definitely don't mean it like that at all. I don't mean to reprimand you or say that you haven't been doing that, but I think that Spirit is only trying to say that they want to remind you of blessings that are already there. One, to cheer you up. They really want to cheer you up, pile 4. And 2, to help you get on the right vibration to continue receiving gifts that Spirit wants to give you, and receive that help that Spirit wants to give you as well. There's like a very warm, glowy energy that is coming through, and I think that Spirit wants to give you like this feeling of comfort and this feeling of support, and they want you to receive that. I'm especially getting that too with the feeling of a warm cup of tea. I think that might be something that is helpful to some of you, to make that cup of tea. It doesn't have to be chamomile, it can be any flavor you want. But as you drink the cup of tea and kind of just slow down and feel that warmth, Imagine that as symbolic of the warmth and comfort and love that spirit wants to give you, especially during this time of turbulence. And as you're resting and recovering from burnout, just remember that you are supported and you don't have to push yourself so hard for things to be successful for you. I think that taking that time to rest and recover, to feel gratitude and really take care of yourself and to practice some self-love as well, I think that in particular will actually go full circle and help you in your situation. And I feel that also with this a leg up message, I think that is precisely the thing you need to do to help yourself the most in this situation and move it forward towards the result that you want to achieve. Step back and kind of let spirit take the wheel for a little bit, pile 4, and just focus on you and doing things that make you feel good and kind of fill your cup back up. For some of you, I think that aromatherapy might also be effective. You don't have to be limited to one of these methods as well. You can definitely do more than one, but think of some comforting scents that evoke the right feelings that you want to have, and I invite some of you guys to try that in your home as well. I think that's all the message that we have for today, but I want to thank you so much, Pile 4, for spending your time with me and giving me the opportunity to do your reading. If you feel called to, I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye.